Hello everyone and welcome back to Tutorialronpa. This is Empty, and in part 7 of this series we are finally done with daily life. We're starting deadly life with how to make your investigation segment. Honestly, this part is pretty simple. There isn't really any new knowledge per se. We're just applying what we already learned in the previous tutorials a bit differently. So we're going to start. The first thing I'm going to do is, if you remember in the last tutorial, we set up scene 4. I'll be using scene 4 to write some text explaining that, well, someone died or whatever, and the investigation is starting. So I will be making a parallel event for that. So let's go do that. I'm calling this scene 4, and I'm making the trigger parallel, as well as the switch be scene 4. Now that this is done, I'll be adding some simple text explaining the situation. Okay, so as you can see, I'm done with that. It's nothing too crazy. I just added the basics. And now what we're going to want to do is we're going to activate a switch that indicates the investigation has started. So I will be creating a new switch for that. Let's go over to control switches. And we will create investigation 1 on. After investigation 1 on is on, we'll be turning off scene 4 so we can go out of this event and move on to the actual investigation. Make sure you turn it off and not on, like I almost did. That's important. Now that this is actually set up, let's go set up our investigation items. Like I mentioned in there, I'll be doing 3 items total, so I will be doing 1 character and 2 objects. So let us start with a character, but all of them are going to be the exact same. So the first thing we're going to do is name our character. I'm going to do this character's account. And let's set up our conditions, which will be the investigation on switch. The next thing I'll be doing is I'll be adding an image. In this case, it's just going to be a character. However, it doesn't matter for now. This is a tutorial. Over here, obviously, you'll want to make it your actual character. This one, sure, whatever. We're going to keep the trigger to action button since we want this to play when the player, interacts with it. Now we want to add some text to it. Okay, so I'm done with the text. Like I said, it's nothing crazy. I just added a little explanation. And now we have to do 2 things. Firstly, we will have a variable called investigation progress, and we will change that variable so that it increases every time you investigate a different item. We use the same variable no matter what item you're actually investigating. This way we can keep track of what the player has seen and the player hasn't seen. And once it reaches the number, whatever that number is, in this case it's going to be 3, once it reaches that number, it will take the player out of the investigation and into the trial. So let's go do that. Remember to set it to add and 1. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on a switch for this bullet specifically. In this case, I'll be making a switch called characters account that I will be turning on. This switch will do two things. Firstly, it will make it so this event is disabled, so that way whenever the player tries to interact with it again, once it's actually already seen the investigation segment, you won't be able to interact with it again. So we disable that event. And the second thing it's going to do is that if there is a truth bullet menu, which I will not be making a tutorial for since it's pretty redundant, if there is a truth bullet menu by using these switches, you will make it so that if the switch is on, you show the actual bullet information. And if the switch isn't on, you would add an else statement. And over there, you would add a picture of an unknown bullet with no description, or however you want to do it. It's pretty simple. You can do it based on the menu tutorials I already did. So I don't want to make a third menu tutorial. I think it's quite redundant, as I said. So yeah, this is how you would do it. So let us add that switch. Now, the last thing we have to do before we move on to the next event is we're going to be making a second tab. So we're going to copy event page and paste event page. Over here, we have our second page. I'm going to get rid of all the content. And now that this is done, I'm going to add a second switch as a condition, our character's account switch. This way, when we interact with this character again, this will only activate once we've seen tab 1. When we go into tab 2, the character will not be interactable anymore. It will not increase, it will not allow us to see the event twice, so this way we fix any issues there might be. So with this, our first truth bullet is done, so let's make the other two that I mentioned before I move on to a little detail I also want to teach you how to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste this event and just change small details. It's nothing crazy. So I'm copying, I'll paste it over here, and this time I'm changing the image to be an object. So I'm going to go over here to other, and I'm going to take this sword. I'm changing the name to sword over here. I'm changing the text over here to represent the different bullet. And I'm changing the switch over here. Of course, don't forget to change the switch in the second tab as well. Now, everything is done. It's ready. I'm going to do this one more time for a third investigation object. So I'm going to change the image. This time I'm going to go into the tile set and I'll be picking this weird flower over here. I'll be changing the name of the event. I'll be changing the text. I'll be changing the switch in tab 1. And I'll be changing the switch in tab 2. An important detail I forgot in the previous event, the sword event, you also need to change the image in the second tab, which I didn't do. So I'll be doing that over here for the weird flower, and I'm going back over here and doing it for the sword as well. Now we've added all our truth bullets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a marker so that the player knows what they have to investigate. So every event that is related to the investigation will have a bullet or, well, something on top of it. In this case, I'll probably do fire or whatever image is available in RPG Maker. And once you actually investigate that event, it will disappear. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going over here and I'm creating a new event. I'm keeping the trigger as action button, and I'll add a switch, the investigation on switch. I'm naming this marker. And now I'm going to add a picture. Let's do like a little light. Sure, like a shimmer. Well, more like a light, but yeah, we're going to use this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy event page, paste event page. We're going to activate a second switch. In this case, I'm above character's account, so I'll take the character's account switch as a condition. And we're going to get rid of the image. We do that by going over here where it says none. And that's ready. So I'll be doing that for the other two events as well. We're going to copy paste. And the only thing we have to do is go over here in the second tab and change the switch condition. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to actually make it so that the investigation ends. The way I will be doing that is I'm going to go into the same event we used at the start. So this one over here for me, and I'll be making a new event page. We're going to set the trigger to parallel. And in this case, our condition is going to be a variable. We're going to take the investigation progress variable, and we're going to set it to whatever the number of truth bullets or, well, interactable events we have. That's the number we want to put in here. So in my case, it's going to be 3. So now we add the text we want to add. So I'm just going to add some text, nothing too crazy. And now that this text is done, I'll be turning off the investigation switch and I'll be turning on whatever the next switch is. In this case, the next thing I'm going to do is the trial. So I'll be turning on a trial begin switch for my first scene. That's how I personally like to name it, but that's up to you, whatever you prefer. For now, I'm adding a comment to indicate that the teleport would go there since I don't have the map, and I'll be making that in the next episode. But for now, our investigation would be over with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test it. So we're going to play the game, and let's see how that goes. Let's go over here, new game. Once again, we're going to need to skip everything. Let's talk to the character. Then we go in the house. We go out. Now we do the free time events we did last episode. And as you can see, a body has been discovered. Now you have to investigate or whatever. There's a total of 3 interactable items, by the way. The items appear and you can see they have their marker. So let's go over here. This is the character account investigation. As you can see, it works. You can't interact with it anymore no matter how many times you click, and the marker is gone. Let's see that we did the other 2 correctly as well. The sword works as well. And lastly, the flower. As you can see, something is wrong with the flower. So we're going to go to the event and test it. Let's go over to the flower, and here's our issue. For all your investigation items, you need to set priority to same as characters. For the other objects, it changed automatically. The game does it sometimes. But for the flower, since it's considered to be a floor item you can usually step over, it set the priority to below characters. In order for this to work, we needed it to be same as characters. So I'm going to change that, and I'm going to go back and play again. So let's do that. I'm just going to skip through everything again. Okay, and now let's go to the flower first. Now that we changed the priority, you can see this actually works. You have to be careful with this. It can happen sometimes. It's a small mistake and you will notice the instant you do it. As you can see, I noticed as soon as I checked. Now the flower is done. The character is done as well. And the sword is also done. Now when we're actually done with the investigation, you can see that the next event, the one we placed over here, instantly starts. The investigation is over. Time for the trial. Don't forget to teleport your character and change the corresponding switches. As you can see, the switch changed, but since this is over, it's looping, but this makes sense. Everything's okay. So this is it for this episode of Tutorialronpa. I really hope you enjoyed it and it helped you. Now that we're done with the investigation, we will be moving over to the trial, which I know everyone has been expecting, and it's probably the most looked forward part of this tutorial. I'll be making a bunch of mini games, but before we get to that, I'll be doing a thing that, while not vital, I really like the look of, and that is the trial camera. What do I mean by the trial camera? In the Danganronpa games, when the dialogue plays during the normal segments of the trial, not the mini games, the camera will move. So it'll zoom into a character, zoom out, move to the left, move to the right, move diagonally. You can quite easily recreate that effect in RPG Maker. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to set that up, so you can have cool looking trial dialogue. After that, we will be moving on to the mini games. I haven't decided the order yet, but I can already tell you that the first one will be the non-stop debate. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to look forward to the next tutorials. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!